Little Red Riding Hood was not a fairy tale. It was a warning. An ancient warning, passed from mouth to mouth when books did not yet exist. In a time when forests were not magical, but places where people vanished. When certain men were called wolves, it wasn't fantasy, it was fear. This story was not created to entertain children. It was created so they would survive. If you listen until the end, you'll understand why Little Red Riding Hood should never have been softened. She did not live in a magical world. She lived in rural Europe between the 14th and 17th centuries. A time of hunger, muddy roads, isolated villages, and forests that swallowed people whole. In that world, children disappeared. Women vanished on the road between one house and another, and almost never were their bodies. The forest was not enchanted. It was lawless territory. What the wolf was not an animal. It was a nickname. Men known for wandering between villages, sleeping on the edges of roads, offering too much help, asking too many questions. They were called werewolves, not because of magic, but because they appeared out of nowhere, imitated normal human behavior, attacked when no one was watching. Oral accounts describe these men as too polite, too calm, good with children. The word werewolf meant something simple and terrifying. A man who hides behind a social mask until he can hunt. Little Red Riding Hood was not innocence. She was vulnerability. A peasant's daughter, sent alone down a dangerous path because there was no other choice. Her grandmother lived in isolation, like many widows and elderly women of the time. Easy targets. The red hood was not decoration. Red symbolized something villagers understood very well. The girl had bled for the first time. It was a social marker, a silent warning that she had ceased to be a child in the eyes of the world, and had begun to be watched. The oldest oral version. Before books, before the Brothers Grimm, before the softened moral. In this version, there is no hunt, there is no rescue, there is no happy ending. The wolf arrives first at the grandmother's house. He enters without breaking in. He speaks calmly. The grandmother dies there. No struggle, no witnesses. Parts of her body are cooked. Not as a magical ritual, but as a final humiliation, an act of absolute power. When the girl arrives, tired, hungry, terrified, she eats the soup, without knowing. The bed scene, the real horror. There is nothing childish about it. When Little Red Riding Hood enters the room, she senses something is wrong, but she goes in anyway. Why? Because for centuries children were taught to respect adults, ought question, not run, not scream. In the bed, she begins to recognize the mistake. Big eyes that watch too closely, big hands that move in slowly, big teeth that do not smile. This is not wordplay. It is the psychological account of a child realizing too late that the person in front of her is not who he claims to be. The wolf does not force, he does not run, he does not shout, he waits. The original ending, she is devoured, literally or symbolically, depending on the oral version, and the forest falls silent. No village mobilizes, no body is found, no name is remembered for long, because it had happened before, and it would happen again. The modern lie. Centuries later, someone decides this is too heavy. They create a hunter, they create a rescue, they create a safe ending. But the original warning was amputated. Little Red Riding Hood was not born to entertain children. She was born to warn girls. The real message, the one that survived: do not trust strangers. Do not stray from the path. Do not accept too much conversation. Because the true monster does not growl, does not run, does not look dangerous. He speaks softly. He waits. He is polite. And because of that, he survives. Over time, they added a hunter. They gave it a happy ending. They said it was just imagination. But the wolves never disappeared. They only learned to speak better. Today, the forest is not made of trees. It is made of paths that feel too safe, voices that sound too polite, and trust offered too quickly. Little Red Riding Hood was not a fairy tale. It was a warning left by those who saw, by those who escaped, or by those who arrived too late. Because stories like these aren't born from fantasy. And warnings like these only exist because someone survived to tell the tale. The question remains: how many more Little Red Riding Hoods need to die before laws are changed?